Let's bring in the British Ambassador to the United States, Lord Peter Mandelson. Lord Mandelson, thank you for joining us this morning. You just heard Secretary Rubio there. Your response?
My response is that we need a very radical reset, as you say in the caption behind you. And the reset has to consist of the United States and Ukraine getting back on the same page, and President Zelensky giving his unequivocal backing to the initiative that President Trump is taking to end the war and to bring a just and lasting peace to Ukraine. And the Europeans, George too, they need to back the calls for a ceasefire. And by the way, I think that Ukraine should be the first to commit to a ceasefire and defy the Russians to follow. And then as part of the unfolding plan for this negotiation, the Europeans and perhaps some other countries too have got to consider how they are going to put forces on the ground to play their part in providing enduring security and deterrence for Ukraine. Now, that's the reset that we're looking for. That's what the British Prime Minister is working for in his meeting in London today.
And if there's been any progress yet, I know the meetings are going on right now, but you seem to suggest that it's up to the Ukrainians first to come forward and say yes?
Well, look, after what happened on Friday, it's clear that we need to bring the United States and Ukraine back together again. And I think the first thing that President Zelensky can do is to make clear his commitment to the initiative that President Trump is taking. And yes, I do think it would be a good idea if he signed the economic and commercial deal put forward by the United States. And the reason I say that is quite apart from the economic gain that Ukraine will derive from that, it will also give the United States a stake in Ukraine's future. It will mean that U.S. commercial interests, U.S. Individuals, citizens will be on the ground there, and that will be an even greater added incentive for the U.S. to protect the Ukraine in future and make sure that war does not ensue again. That's what I want to see. That's what we all want to see. It takes both the United States and Ukraine to come together and make sure that this whole initiative is given the best possible likelihood of success. Because, George, it is the only show in town. It's the only negotiation available, and it's got to be made to work. And that's what we in Britain are very committed to help bring about.
Well, what kind of security guarantees can be put in place in order to get Ukraine to sign that agreement?
Well, I think it's very important that as the negotiations get underway, the Europeans own part of this overall plan, are developed, are agreed amongst them, and made clear to the Ukrainians. And that does mean European forces, both on land and in air and at sea, made available to ensure that there is an effective deterrence against any Russian further incursion into an attack on Ukraine. And yes, we would also like to see the US giving us a cover for this. We want to know that the US is covering our backs in what we're putting into Ukraine on the ground, and that there is some sort of ultimate backstop where the US is saying, look, you're going first, the primary responsibility is for the Europeans, but we're going to be there if things get really nasty. The Russians need to know that they're going to answer to the United States as well as to the Europeans on the ground. That's what we would like to see.
President Trump has said he trusts Putin to keep a deal. Does the United Kingdom?
Well, that remains to be seen. But one thing I know of is whatever we might think of President Putin, and we are very, very clear in our commitment to Ukraine and its future in this situation, we have to give peace a chance. We have to give, to create the circumstances in which enough pressure is brought on Putin, on Russia, to bring them, to coax them, to force them to the negotiating table. And then we will see the true color of their intentions and what they're prepared to agree and to stand by. But if it goes wrong, we must be there on Ukraine's side, continuing to arm them, to make sure that they have the capacity to withstand any further Russian attack, with ourselves lining up behind them in that eventuality.
Ambassador Mandelson, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.